What's going on, everyone? Today is May 8th, 2024. It is Wednesday. Mr. Henry is back with us on our midweek review. A couple things to note as we have gotten halfway through the week. We've got Thursday and Friday next. Tomorrow, you have unemployment claims being released at 8:30, and then at 1 o'clock, you have your 30-year bond auction, which is a red folder, unlike the 10-year bond auction, which wasn't today. So expect a little bit more volatility in the PM session and the AM session there. To wrap the week up, Friday, May 10th, you do have preliminary consumer sentiment being released at 10, and on top of that, at 10, you also have inflation expectations. Note that the consumer sentiment is red, the inflation expectations are orange, so you still have red folder there. So not a whole lot of crazy stuff going on in the week, but it is the only red folder news we have had all week, so that could carry a little bit more volatility with it, since there has been no red news so far this week. So that's it for news. Henry, you got anything else for news?
No, that's it for me. Jump into it.
All righty. So going into dollar.
You're good.
Okay, so on dollar on a weekly, I'm still expecting higher prices on dollar. Nothing here has showed me how we've recovered so far this week. The only thing to note off of a weekly is this BISI consequent encroachment, right? So when we go into a daily, right, I've got the weekly BISI consequent encroachment right here. So if we're looking at this weekly BISI that we've been following, we closed just a little bit below, right? Just a little bit below, but we were still willing to see how this week traded and where we closed this week. We weren't going to take this slight little closure too heavily. So when you go into a daily, you can see that we had this bottom half BISI, which is actually a discount array, because if you take from this low to this high, you can get the equilibrium right here, right, at 105,200. And this was the discount array in the form of a BISI sitting below it. On Friday, we delivered down into the consequent encroachment, closed back outside, and it was a willingness to see, hey, going into this week, do we create new displacement? And you can see in the next 1 hour and 24 minutes, as long as this candle closes somewhere where it's at, we will now have new displacement, right? So that's what we want to see with regards to order flow. Prices delivering into a BISI and then creating new BISIs away from that. So therefore, we can sit there and expect price to start to deliver higher into our first buy side target, which are these clean relative equal highs in here, right? 106,517. Note that we did kind of trade through this CIBI and this CIBI as well as this volume imbalance. So curious to see if we do tomorrow. What I'd be looking for is to see if we do get delivery into there and then potential displacement back up here, right? Not saying that we have to take this buy side liquidity this week, but we want to see if we can start to get a willingness to push higher, close back above this weekly BISI consequent encroachment. And I think that as long as we can close anywhere above this consequent encroachment on the weekly, that'll set us up to at least take the buy side next week. If we don't take it this week, you never know. We haven't had any red news events this week, so price has been kind of somewhat held in. So we could get a lot of volatility out of the news events. We could just kind of put ourselves in a position to take it next week. You've kind of got to keep that in the back of your minds. And that's really it for me on dollar. Just keep a note of that. If we do close back below this BISI and back below equilibrium with regards to daily, I just keep note of this volume imbalance. And I'd really just like price to actually now stay back above. As long as price is above this candle's low, last Friday's low, and really candle closure above the consequent encroachment of this BISI, I'm still going to let this thing kind of want to go higher. But I wouldn't want it. That's not favorable, right? It's permissible, but it's not favorable. I would like to see price stay above this weekly BISI consequent encroachment come Friday closure. Other than that, that's it for me.
Okay. I will go over the indices. All right, so just starting on the monthly, ES and NASDAQ together, you can see we're gravitating higher back up toward April's high. This, of course, isn't ideal with what we're seeing on the dollar. We do like to see an inverse relationship where if dollar is moving higher, indices move lower, or vice versa. But we could, with what we're seeing right now, see some more mixed market conditions for the time being, which is indices and dollar both moving higher or lower together. So in this case, right now, there's really no premium arrays between where price is trading right now and the previous monthly high. on ES and NASDAQ. So as long as we continue to respect the discount arrays that have been created on the weekly and the daily, then we can continue gravitating up toward April's high. But let's jump into this and go into some lower time frames. So we'll drop down to the weekly here. And you can see that ES is trading up back up into a premium of this range. So that's really the only thing to stand for in terms of potentially seeing lower prices. The fact that we have traded back up into a premium now. But as long as this candle doesn't go back and touch the high of this candle, this weekly candle from April 22nd, then you will also have a new BISI in here as well. So we're starting to see potentially weekly displacement back to the upside, which would be good in terms of looking for higher prices on the indices. On the daily, as we drop down, you can see that we've now traded higher, closed through premium arrays, being this SIBI right here, which we had previously dropped lower from. So now we've closed through, and in doing so created a BISI right here, as well as right here, which today we traded down into. Didn't even drop down into the consequent encroachment and still closed above it. So everything is still pointing toward bullish order flow at the moment, and going into tomorrow and Friday, we could be open to higher prices trading. So just look at Wednesday's high and Tuesday's high as potential areas to reach for. If we do trade lower and attack the opposing liquidity being Monday's low, which would be nice to see with the dollar going higher, but we may not do so just given the bullish order flow that we're seeing. If we do trade and close below that, I would still remain bullish unless we're seeing closure back below this weekly SIBI right here. So it's pretty small, but you can note that right there, just between that candle's low and that candle's high. So as long as we're above that on a closing basis, I'll continue looking for higher prices here. Okay, same deal on NASDAQ for the most part. On a weekly basis, we traded up above the weekly SIBI right here, and as long as we don't touch this candle's high, we'll create a new weekly BISI. So seeing that displacement and looking for higher prices on NASDAQ right now. If we are going to continue expanding higher, the next objective I would look for, apart from the current weekly high, is just the high from the week of April 15th, right there. From a daily perspective, you can see the same things. We traded through SIBIs, closed above, and created new BISI. So we're seeing that displacement away, and now potentially utilizing this area as inversion to continue trading higher. So we traded above that. We dropped down today just past the consequent encroachment of this daily BISI right here, and close above the high end of it. So still good for bullish prices, bullish price movement, and expecting that as we get into the remainder of the week, we could go ahead and seek Wednesday's high and potentially Tuesday's high as well. Same deal for what we talked about on ES. If we do end up dropping lower to seek Monday's low, then as long as we remain on a closing basis above, in or above this weekly SIBI right here, I'll continue to expect higher prices. But that pretty much covers it there. Carson, any last thoughts on indices?
Yeah, I got one thing. So even though we are potentially expecting a mixed market, right? If dollar goes higher, indices go higher. Yes, that can lead to high resistance liquidity conditions. But one thing to note in a situation like this is there aren't very clear, there aren't any clear really PD arrays that are really standing out with regards to premium, right? We are in a premium of the range, but there are no clear arrays, right? There's no more SIBIs, there's no more, breaker blocks, whatever the case is. So even though they're both going in the same direction, unless dollar tends to fall and it's just something that we haven't necessarily seen or it's not clear yet, it still could have a very easy run to the highs if indices decide to go higher, just because there's nothing really in its way, right? We had that big consolidation range where it was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and there's nothing really that's keeping NQ right now or ES from taking the highs. I think we could get maybe a retracement lower one more time, but there's not a whole lot of speed bumps that are sitting there. So even though they might be going in the same direction, you still might get somewhat of an easy run up there, just because there's nothing that's super out there that shows that, hey, we need to watch out for this SIBI, this breaker block, right? Just the simple fact of, we've got, one higher time frame order block, but really that's about it. So just keep that in mind. But other than that, that's about it.
Cool. Sounds good. It's good for me then. Any last thoughts just around the week?
Nope, just be safe. Hopefully you were patient this week. Price hasn't done a whole lot that's too crazy. I've been patient. I haven't necessarily touched anything this week. I was waiting for Thursday and Friday. So gonna kind of put most of my attention into tomorrow. And then if there's anything opportunistic going into Friday, I might take it too. But I've been waiting for tomorrow. So hopefully you guys haven't burned too much steam while there has been no news so far this week. Hopefully you guys were patient and just be safe, manage risk, and all the right things to do. So just do them.
All right. Good place to end it. Stay safe. Take care. Talk to you soon.